Welcome back. All right, so some news of the day, but not from hockey. So I want to talk about a little bit of football here. Also, apparently the Jays are going into a bit of a swan song right now when it comes to their playoff hunt. Not sure what happened there, but I mean the Jays, you either get pitching or you get hitting. You can't have both. Now, the San Francisco 49ers taking, I don't know about heat, but Trey Lance, it just hasn't worked from the gate, right? It hasn't worked from the get-go. He was going to be the number 3 guy. Well, you don't want to have a, top flight prospect, if you still see him that way, holding a clipboard on the sidelines and being the number 3 guy. So he has been traded to the Cowboys for a 4th-round pick, which has led to a lot of comments about Dak Prescott and whether or not he's going to be the starter that much longer for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, in 2021, when they got that pick, when they got Trey Lance, they traded a number 12 pick, a 1st and a 3rd round pick in 2022, and a 2023 1st round pick. So that's a lot. And it's interesting to me because the NFL and the way that draft picks are basically graded is different. It is not unheard of for a team to give up a bunch of draft picks for a player, and you go, that seems like a lot for one guy, and that's the case here. And for Lance, over the 2 years that he's there, played a total of 8 games, started 4. He was 2-2 in those 4 starts, had 5 touchdowns in the 8 games he played and 3 interceptions. So not setting the world on fire, and clearly was just outplayed. And so seeing that they need to make moves, this is not the only move that's been made this week either. But it's worthy of note. So I thought, hey, throw it into a video, throw it on a board, talk about it. So what gets me with the NFL, and this is a good segue, is how quickly you can go from really highly thought of, fantastic player to, so we don't want this guy. It can happen virtually overnight. So I watched the Johnny Manziel Untold on Netflix. I wanted to talk about that as well, and I think this is a perfect example. So with Johnny Manziel, you could see in this documentary the frustrating part as a fan of watching Johnny Manziel. Supremely talented, very talented quarterback who once he reached the NFL, he just didn't want to do the work. He didn't want to do the work. He had the talent. The physical skill was there. Did not want to do the work. He was more interested in partying and, playing around and going out drinking. And it sidelined his career. And you think about how much money he could have made. So he gets the $8.5 million, right, as a first-round draft pick. And once he gets his contract, gets $8.5 million and goes, well, that's great. I'm going, right? Even says that in the documentary. The frustrating part as a fan is knowing he threw away what would have been, another $50 million in his career if he had stuck to it, if he had done his best to watch game film and actually improve. But he wasn't interested. So the actual improvement part, and at the end, when they're talking about, well, what could he have done different? All I could think in the back of my mind was, if Johnny Football had gone back to Texas A&M for one more year of college, maybe he would have been a little more mature when he reached the NFL. And I'm just saying that as a maybe. I should put that in air quotes, but it's frustrating to watch because Johnny Manziel had the talent, and then he arrived in Cleveland, and then, as he said, it just wasn't fun. And what I said out loud watching it was, well, there's rules. There's rules, and you're not dealing with college kids anymore. You're dealing with men. You're dealing with veterans. You're dealing with guys who, this is their job. And I think that's the thing with sports, that there are some athletes that they forget this part. I totally understand why, because after your game's done, you can go out, you go drinking, partying, you'd have women throwing themselves at you, and it would be easy to get caught up in all that. But for the football players that stick around, they're very often the guys who take this seriously and realize what's on the line here. I'm not saying that there aren't football players who've had long careers that do the partying and all of that. There's definitely been NBA examples, NHL examples, Major League Baseball, you name the major sport, it happens. You can get guys who party a lot that end up being Hall of Famers. But for Johnny Football, he did not balance it. It's a matter of balancing things out. And that's the frustrating part watching it, was like, there's this sense of maybe him not getting it. That, yeah, here's your $8.5 million, but you can have all these other millions of dollars if you just put in the work and if you continue to improve, right? That's really what it is with football with quarterbacks. They just have to go out there. Rookies very rarely take over the league. There's been a lot of rookies that come in and struggle. The good quarterbacks, they learn, they watch their game tape, they do all the practicing they need to, they run their routes, they learn what their offensive coordinator's looking for from them, and they get better. You know, sometimes it doesn't happen, but in this case, it wasn't just that it didn't happen, the effort wasn't there. And so, again, as a fan of football, that was frustrating to watch. Because as soon as he's like, oh, I'm not happy in Cleveland, I'm like, you just got there. Like, I'm not saying that Cleveland is going to be on the same level of locations you'd like to play as, for instance, maybe Dallas during their heyday. Or the Niners in their heyday. So here you go, two teams that are already on the board, right? Or Green Bay. Green Bay, I think, would be a lot of fun to play. Although for Johnny Football, he may not have had as much in the way of partying opportunities. Definitely not as many celebrities in Wisconsin as he's going to get when he's, going out to Las Vegas. The funny part to me, too, was when he's like, well, I was just trying to see if I could get a flight out of Vegas last minute. What are you doing? It's Las Vegas. It's just, I understand there's planes coming in and going out all the time, but you have to book early. And then there was just a lot of other things in that, too, about his agent. And I really thought, too, the fact that the agent was trying to cover for him when he probably would have failed a drug test, definitely would have failed a breathalyzer that day, too. I thought that was telling, and it made me wonder, like, how often do agents, probably for football, maybe in other sports, too, how often do they cover for an athlete that's out there doing something stupid that would affect their standing with the scouts and with the general managers? And not only that, but this is why in sports now you have the interviews before the draft. You sit down and you talk to an athlete, because if you're going to invest millions of dollars and years of your time in the player, you want to make sure that his head's in the game. Johnny Manziel, Johnny Football, absolutely had all the gifts. His head was not right for the NFL. And if there'd been interviews beforehand by the Cleveland Browns, and if they'd done all their homework, because that's why he slipped in that draft. They even showed that in the documentary. The announcers saying these teams have done their homework. Johnny Manziel's falling down the board because it was known he was out partying and he wasn't taking things seriously, right? And that has to be in the back of your mind, that this is a player who may not take this all that seriously, and we're looking for a quarterback. Quarterback runs your offense. He's got to be a mature player. But yeah, I thought it was a fascinating one, and I'm glad I watched it. And if you watched it, let me know your thoughts. In closing, I wanted to talk about Bray Wyatt. We, of course, lost Terry Funk this week as well. Terry Funk at age 79, honestly, for a pro wrestler, 79 is advanced years for a wrestler. Bray Wyatt was much younger. It is a sad tale. It does, I mean, it makes me wonder, too, like, so his brother Bo was working with him in the last angle he was doing. His brother was playing Uncle Howdy, which was great. I was really excited to see that and see where that storyline was going to go. There's been a lot of secrecy around Wyatt over the last few months, and now we know why. That he was struggling with his health. His heart gave out. And so it is heartbreaking. It is another reminder for me that this is why I do my best to enjoy my life as much as I can, because you never know. You never know what's going to happen. And WWE had a very nice, touching tribute to him. They've had tributes throughout the evening. At the time I'm recording this, it's about halfway through SmackDown. So I will watch the rest of SmackDown as well. I thought it was nice, Ray wearing an armband that had Terry Funk and Bray Wyatt's initials on it. And there's been little things by wrestlers tonight to show that they're paying tribute. It has to be tough for the wrestlers to go out there and perform tonight. They were all brought out on stage for the 10-bell salute. And, of course, that leads to a lot of them crying up there. They brought in Eric Rowan. They brought in Braun Strowman, who, last report, he's injured. He can't wrestle. But it's great to see them bring people in. And I wish it wasn't under these circumstances. I always felt like Bray Wyatt was brilliant. I always wanted him to be the guy they built around, and they gave the title and gave him a nice long run as the Fiend. You could have had him as the Fiend some nights as his Firefly Funhouse character another night. You really could have done the Three Faces of Foley treatment with Bray Wyatt. And yeah, it always felt like it was kind of a missed opportunity on the main roster that he could have been the guy. I think the fans would have supported him. And again, he was brilliant. And one thing I'll say for Wyatt, he was a throwback. He was a throwback in how he cut his promos, because as a villain, you don't always have to scream. And he was quiet. He kind of reminded me of Jake Roberts. Jake the Snake was very quiet and very calculated, very good in promos. And he wasn't like over the top and temperamental and screaming. And Bray, much the same. So that when he did raise his voice, it had more impact. He absolutely could have schooled other wrestlers on how to deliver a promo. It was great. And he's going to be greatly missed. So I was tearing up a bit when I saw the promos they had and the video packages, because again, it just feels insane. I feel like there are probably some fans in attendance that were waiting for it to be an angle, waiting for actually this is all part of some kind of a storyline we've started, but it's clearly not. So my thoughts and condolences to friends, family of Bray Wyatt, and of course to fans around the world, because he really did touch a lot of fans, as you could see every time he came out, and they would try to get him over as a bad guy, and it just didn't work, because the fans liked him. They respected his work too much, and he was in that sweet spot where no matter what he did, he was going to get cheered, because the fans just really liked Bray the person. Wyndham Rotunda, sadly gone too young, and I hope that, you know, I would say a month, 2 months down the road, we see Bo Dallas back in a WWE ring. Give the guy a chance. Give him a storyline that's really good. Bo Dallas is a good wrestler as well. And I think that'd be great. But at any rate, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.